iron in the soul.
What's up, YouTube? This is Iron and Soul, back today with another important message. Sad news, and I'm sure many of you have already saw this and heard of this news already online, both through the news as well as the social media outlets that give us this message. And it's a very difficult message to give and to talk about on this day, November 1st, yet another rapper losing their life to gun violence. What is going on? And, before I get into this, I got some of your thoughts here. I got like 12, 15 thoughts written down on a couple of books here I have today to give some perspective and get some thoughts on this. For those who are new to my content, please subscribe to my channel, leave a comment, let me know your thoughts on this particular story. I would appreciate to hear that and get some feedback. Share this video with someone who would appreciate it. Well, here we are again. I feel like this is deja vu. And for those of you who have been following me, I did a video 2 years ago that I believe I entitled The Attack on Rappers. And we got a lot of negative feedback from that, so I took the video down. I wish I wouldn't have at this point, to be honest. Because unfortunately, that's exactly what's been happening. I made that video around the time of the death, if you remember, if you're following me, FBG Duck. When FBG Duck died in Chicago, when he bled out in downtown Chicago, going to shop to buy some clothes for his son, I believe it was, his son's birthday. And I saw the Instagram post later with his son with the outfit on, and the comments underneath. I think I left a comment and whatnot. And, I just felt this so strongly in my spirit that there was something more than what the eye saw at that time. I saw this, it wasn't just an isolated incident. I saw a pattern coming. I saw this coming. And here we are, 2-3 years later, and we're consistently seeing this pattern of young black male rappers losing their life at a very young age. Takeoff is from the group Migos, as you know, was fatally shot during a party at a bowling alley in downtown Houston. Officers in the Houston Fire Department arrived at the scene at 2:40 a.m. He was said to have had a gunshot wound to the head and neck. There were about 40 or 50 people at this location. And so, you hear about something like this and you have all type of questions in your mind. Okay, how could this have been prevented? Where was security? You can't ask him why he was shooting dice because, people who have money like to gamble. That's a part of their lifestyle. Michael Jordan gambled all the time. A lot of wealthy men like to gamble. So that's not even a question. Many celebrities have already sent their condolences online, of course, as you know, and messages on social media. I want to read a few of those, just get their thoughts. Ja Rule said this stuff has to stop. Sending love to friends and family. Free said prayers for Takeoff and for friends, and especially for all his young fans that had to hear this today. Another senseless loss. He was only 28. Can you imagine that? Only 28. And life is gone forever. All that he brought to the culture with his music and style and the appreciation that so many in the hip hop community have for the Migos and what they brought to the culture, their style, their delivery, they brought a uniqueness to the hip hop game. I speak as one who has been a hip hop fan consciously since 1993. And going back to the days of Tupac Shakur, Biggie Smalls, Busta Rhymes, take it back even a little further, LL Cool J. We could talk about all those guys, Nas, DMX, that really blazed, just trailblazed this world we now call the hip hop world. And to see it consistently evolve year by year, day by day, the Migos were definitely a part of that evolution. Jamel Hill said something also about this death, and I think her thoughts were very insightful and important to this conversation as well. She says, I was in college when Biggie and Pac were killed. And though there was no way we'd ever experience this again, anything remotely close to this. Now it's happening so frequently that you barely have time to recover before someone else is killed. Rest in peace, Takeoff. And those are my thoughts. It's like every time this happens, it catches me off guard. Like I literally open my phone up to Instagram or Facebook or wherever I may be at. Not Facebook. I'm hardly on Facebook. Open my phone to Instagram, and boom, the picture's right there. This is what happened when FBG Cass passed away. I was at the gym. You know how it is. I decided to look at my phone between sets, and boom, there's a picture of Cash. And the weird thing about Cash, I told you guys, I had just had some dreams about Cash maybe a week or two before he passed away. And that's all documented, by the way, on my TikTok, The King Jabez. For those who want to follow me there. I'm not just here talking on my backside. This is something that's very important to me, and I really have a heart and a vision for the hip-hop world. And so I believe the Most High gives me these dreams, and stuff be happening with FBG Cash, as well as King Von and Duck. And so that being said, the same happened today with Takeoff. I opened my phone up to Instagram briefly. I was in my car about to drive somewhere, and boom, Takeoff from Migos is dead at 28. And like you, my first thought was, this can't be real. You know what I mean? As much as this happened, this can't be happening again. I mean, I don't care how many times this happens. This can happen 1,000 times. It's still always shocking when it happens. You know, we think about all the rappers, in particular male rappers, that have lost their lives over the last 4 years. XXXTentacion, Juice WRLD, King Von, FBG Duck, Nipsey Hussle, Pop Smoke, Young Dolph, Draco the Ruler, MO3, Jada Youngin, Trouble, PNB Rock, and today Takeoff. I remember just doing that live on PNB Rock just when it happened. It's like an hour live. If you want to check that out. I talked about Trouble some months back, and I got videos on all these different topics when this stuff happens. And it's been on my heart and mind for years. And as a person who believes in the Most High God and the Bible, I have to wonder what is really going on here. What is happening? And I have my thoughts. And I like to be careful with that, especially at a time like this. Before I get into any of my thoughts or opinions concerning this, obviously I was not there. Okay, I'll state the obvious first. I wasn't there. I don't know the exact details, but this is what I do know. Another young black man who happens to be a rapper is gone forever. He will never see his family again. That's what we do know. And this just sent this shock wave throughout the hip hop world. Because when something like this happens, of course, it affects his immediate family, friends, other members of the Migos. You know what I mean? It affects his, I'm not sure if he's married or not, or if he has a girlfriend, fiance, if he has children. It affects the immediate family at first, obviously. And before I go any further, condolences to his family. Let me put that out there clearly. Prayers, and may God help his family during this time of trial and error. And we pray that he will experience the God of all comfort. So I pray that heaven will send a healing during this time. And so let me just put that out there. Let me say a brief prayer for the family, because that's what we should be concerned about this time. The hurt they're going through. I remember looking at the funeral when Nipsey Hussle passed and seeing the pain, the obvious pain and hurt in the eyes of his family, in the eyes of his daughter, his children. Same thing with Young Dolph. It really upset me to see his son and I believe his daughter on stage when he passed away at the funeral. And all of the pain that just goes throughout the entire hip hop community when this happens. You see, Jay-Z, in his book Decoded, I believe he gives some insight to this situation. And that's something that we have to take a look at. I did a video on this about several months ago, close to 2-hour live, breaking down this book Decoded. And I'll tell you something. If you are an artist, let me say this clearly. If you are an artist, especially if you are a black male artist, I strongly suggest that you carefully read Jay-Z's book, Decoded. Once again, I say, if you are an artist, a black male rapper, I suggest that you carefully read this book. Decoded is about 300 pages long. It took me several months to read it. because I wanted to really, it was so much information I had to process. And not that it was hard to comprehend from a comprehension level in terms of reading and comprehension, but just the harsh reality of the life of a rap star. Back to the 80s and 90s, all the way up to now 2022. You have to think, what is really going on? He says in his book, Decoded, on page 162. But I still have to ask myself, why? Right? And isn't that what we're all asking ourselves right now? Why? XXXTentacion, why? Juice WRLD, why? King Von, why? FBG Duck, why? Nipsey Hussle, why? Pop Smoke, why? Young Dolph, why? Draco the Ruler, why? MO3, why? Jada Youngin, why? Trouble, why? PNB Rock, just sitting down to eat some waffles and chicken, why? Right? And today, Takeoff. So Jay-Z asked this question in his book, why? Rappers as a class are not engaged in anything criminal. They're musicians. Some rappers and friends of rappers commit crimes. Some bus drivers commit crimes. Some accountants commit crimes. But they aren't task forces devoted to bus drivers and accountants. Bus drivers don't have to work under the presupposition or the suspicion of law enforcement. The difference is obvious, of course. Rappers are young black men telling stories that the police, among others, don't want to hear. That has to be put out there as we talk about this whole conversation. Rappers are normally given a story that people don't want to hear. Rappers tend to come from places where police are accustomed to treating everybody like a suspect. The general style of rappers is offensive to a lot of people. But being offensive is not a crime, right? At least not one that's in the books. The fact that law enforcement treats rap like organized crime tells you a lot about just how deeply rap offends some people. They love for rap itself to be a crime, but until they can get that law passed, they'll come after us however they can. You understand? And so that's what's happening. And so in this case, I'm not saying that that's the case with Takeoff. I'm just using this as a teacher moment in terms of all of you guys who are in the hip hop world. You have to understand you have a bullseye on your back. Okay? There's something else that Jay-Z talked about in his book. He talked about Biggie and Tupac Shakur, of course. Big Pun, Pimp C, Old Dirty Bastard, and so many others I can't even think of right now from the 80s and 90s who died a similar death. Right? Speaking their truth behind a mic. And you find yourself now with all this money and wealth and influence, you have to deal with all these women, you have to deal with all these jealous guys, you have to deal with these people who watch you who don't like you got the money in the first place. You know, it's truly, as Tupac Shakur said it best, he couldn't have said it more perfectly, all eyes on me. That is the burden of a hip-hop artist. You have all eyes on you. Whether you have 10,000 followers or 40,000 or 50,000 or 100,000 or a million, there are a lot of eyes on you. If you have a significant following for rap music, significant can be as much as 10,000 followers on Instagram, 100,000 followers on Instagram. You are being watched. I want you to understand that. NBA Youngboy pointed this out very clearly in one of his interviews, or I think it was a magazine article, if I'm not mistaken. NBA Youngboy, Kentrill, he has had quite a year himself, to be honest. In his 7+ years of releasing albums and mixtapes, he has taken the rap game by storm. He has spent a lot of time in jail and house arrest before beating a Fed case. He gave an insight into the life of a rap star back in 2017 with an XXL interview. He said, this is NBA Youngboy, quote him, "If you got a name, the police know who you is." I said this. Yes, I know the English is wrong. They know who you is. You do something, they're going to come get you, and whoever you're with and whatever they do, you are accountable for it just because you got the biggest name. Okay? I understand that. You know? And so Youngboy's been dropping music just like crazy, back to back, out here grinding. You know, and even one of his last albums, you know, had a gospel vibe about it, the blues and new school rap as well as old school mixture that shows me that he really understands what hip hop is all about. And listen to this in his music. really is creating a new sound in the hip hop game. And so he himself pointed this out, that if you are rapping and you have a name for yourself, you are being watched. You may hear this and say, you know what? We are our own worst enemies. You know, he was shot by another black man, to my knowledge. I don't know that. And you know what? What we have to understand, and what anybody understand, not even just a rapper, any black man, black person, family that is doing well for yourself or is making it, you have to understand that a lot of black families are not doing so good right now. A lot of black families are hurting. Okay? Why do you think Kodak Black paid the rent, or I think some cases, I don't know if it was rent or mortgage or both, for several tenants in Florida who were about to get evicted? I read a post on Instagram, as I'm sure as you have as well, that talked about the number or the increasing number of black women being evicted from their homes and apartments. So a lot of black families are under financial pressure right now. There is a panic in our communities that you have to understand. And unfortunately, we're doing what we have always done. And that is turn on each other as opposed to unite and to help each other out, to be there to give an assistance. But we tend to turn on others. We have a hatred, not saying individually, but collectively speaking, we tend to have a hatred for those who we perceive to be doing better than us. And that jealousy creeps in. And when that jealousy creeps in, that admiration they may have for you very quickly turns into jealousy. Let me say that again, that admiration and love at times can be fake love, can very quickly turn into hatred and animosity. The truth be told, admiration can turn into hatred. And I did a video over on TikTok that did very well, got over 100,000 views. And I talked about this very thing, about when you have an attractiveness about yourself. I highly suggest that if you are an artist or a model or any type of influencer, that you watch that video. I highly suggest you watch that. I don't get any benefit from that. I don't get paid any money for it. I already got 100,000 views on it. But for your own benefit, go to King Jabez over on TikTok and watch that 3-minute video where I talked about the dark side of being attractive. It is a real thing. If you are attractive physically, or whether your attraction be through your influence and wealth, you need to understand this. I'm trying to help you, and I hope somebody hears this. I hope somebody hears this that has some money, that has, listen to me, that has some influence. Watch yourself, brother. Watch yourself. Everybody's not your friend. People out here are jealous. If you are doing well right now, you better understand clearly a lot of people are not. And they will rob you. They will shoot you. They will hurt you. Can I say that any clearer? So if you are doing well for yourself, I'm not saying to be paranoid, but be careful. Okay? Be careful who you're around. And you know this already. This is just old school game. Keep your circle small. You already know that before I even said that. Okay? So let's take it to the book for a brief second. Exodus 1:8-10 says this. Then a new king began to rule Egypt. He did not know Joseph. This king said to his people, look at the Israelites. There are too many of them, and they are stronger than we are. Right? We will make plans to stop them from growing stronger. Is there a war? They might join our enemies and defeat us and escape from our land. The word of God has spoken. And so when enemies fear your growth and development, that fear will sometimes lead them to respond in violence and to attack and to take from you what belongs to you. So you have a few extremes to avoid. For one, the first extreme is to be too trusting of everybody, right? To think everyone's your friend. That's an extreme. And the other extreme is to be suspicious of everyone. So you don't want to be too trusting. And at the same time, you don't want to be suspicious of everyone, because you end up losing people who could be potential friends and co-workers and helpers. Don't deal with someone who has nothing going on outside of you in your world. So if you are a person who has a certain level of status and all they got going on is what you got going on, being connected to you, that could be dangerous. Because we see this is what happened with Selena, right? That woman had nothing going on besides what she had going on with Selena. And when Selena wanted to cut that off, she could not take that. Do you hear me? So you have to be careful sometimes with people who have nothing going on outside of what they have going on in your world. Okay? Let's read the definition for jealousy in Webster Dictionary. Webster defines jealousy as this: Feelings or showing an unhappy or angry desire, okay? To have what someone else has. You hear that? Let's read that again. Feelings or showing an unhappy or angry desire to have what someone else has. So there are a lot of jealous people out here right now that may want what you have, whether it be your money or your influence or your woman or all of the above. And you have to be careful with people who are under the type of act or the type of spirit. So, you know, I have to talk about this, and I wanted to wait toward the end of the video for those who were took the serious enough to listen to all of this. So if you're this far, I really appreciate you listening this far into the video. And I want to say this to them. I want to give now another perspective. There are many who will believe, okay, by this being a music industry, this had to be a sacrifice for the industry, right? I'm sure in the next week or two, there will be videos all over the internet discussing this as a sacrifice. Now, obviously, I don't know that, but as a person who has followed the music industry for years, I have to wonder, okay, was it the case? I can't say yes or no, but I can say that human sacrifice is unfortunately a sad reality that is behind the music industry. And it's nothing new. If you go back to the ancient pagan religions, they had a god named Molech, the Hebrew word for king. The Phoenician MLK was a type of sacrifice made to confirm a vow. Moloch, M-O-L-O-C-H, is the personified ruler of shameful sacrifices. So what they had back in this ancient pagan religion, they would have shameful sacrifices, which is what the word Moloch means. And this involved ritual prostitution, human sacrifice, and worship of false gods, which were basically or essentially demons. Okay? So the Phoenicians, or modern day Syria and Israel, had sex rituals, aka WAP video. That was a ritual, aka Miley Cyrus shockingly performing at the music performance years ago, aka J-Lo at the Super Bowl with Shakira, aka Prince at the Music Awards with his butt out many years ago, and a host of other examples of what this is. A glimpse of what they do privately. Those public performances are just a sneak peek of what happens privately. And what happens privately is so shameful, we would be stunned if we knew half of it. In this ancient world, there was also an emphasis on child sacrifice. And this is unfortunately something that happens often during Halloween. Okay, these African voodoo doctors and witch doctors, I've been researching this. A lot of them are sacrificing poor innocent children during this time of the year. It is so sad. But there are people who are practicing, this stuff is real, guys. There are people who are practicing witchcraft and voodoo and doing this type of stuff in private. Little do we know. Okay? So during this, as a part of this pagan religion, they practiced child sacrifice, which was essentially passing children through the fire, as mentioned in the Old Testament. Couples would sacrifice their firstborn to ensure financial prosperity. This can all be documented if you study the ancient Hebrew scriptures. You had couples sacrificing their firstborn child to ensure that they had prosperity. Even King Solomon, as wise as he was, there was a time in his life where he backslid and he was worshiping the false god Molech. So this is something that we have to be aware of. As I close this talk, and I'm out of time, I have to say a few thoughts in closing. I will say, stay away from snakes. Okay? Be very careful who you have around you. If people are showing the signs of jealousy and hate and envy and strife and malice, stay away. Number 2, don't ignore obvious red flags. This is the take-home value for this. Don't ignore red flags. If you're watching people and those red flags keep popping up, pay attention. That's your sign to get away from that person. Okay? Number 3, don't value money over your own soul. What is a profit man to gain the whole world and to lose the soul? Number 4, cars, jewels, houses, and women cannot satisfy the deep needs of a human spirit. Let me say that again. Cars, jewels, houses, wealth, influence, and women can never satisfy the deep needs of the human spirit. For a more in-depth teaching on that, read in the Old Testament Hebrew scriptures, Ecclesiastes chapter 3 and verse 11. Number 5, the eyes of a man and woman never lie. When you're around people, look in their eyes. You can tell what's going on with them. I watch people, and when I look into their eyes, I can see if they have a good spirit or a bad spirit. I've been around long enough to know that. It's called discernment. Watch people look in their eyes. The eyes are the windows to that soul. Mark my word, okay? Number 6, people aren't always who they appear to be. Okay, there's some people who know how to, we call in Chicago phony kicking it. There's some people know how to phony kick it and appear to be nice when they're a snake. They phony, two-faced, thirsty, clout chasing, all of that. You know what I mean? So people are not always who they appear to be. And number 7, in closing, let's take the words of Tupac Shakur, or the wisdom of Tupac Shakur. Don't support the phonies. If someone reveals himself to be a phony, and they will eventually, by the way, I want you to understand that. If you watch people long enough, if you're around someone for 3 to 6 months, they will reveal whether they are thorough or if they are a phony. You hear me? So don't deal with the phonies, only support the real. This is your brother Iron and Soul. Thanks for listening to this video. God bless. Prayers for the family of Takeoff. Peace.